Hello, everyone. This is David, and I'm back here with Holly Lotus once again. She looked a lot different from our first broadcast, but she still looks stunning. Today, we're going to be talking about a very serious topic, and it's a word that keeps coming up and coming up all over the internet. So, we're going to be talking about embodiment and embodiment practices, cleansing practices for women, and feminine gurus. Are they for real? What is their purpose, and how do they go about executing that purpose? So, first of all, I'd like Holly Lotus to introduce yourself. Holly, introduce yourself once again.
Hi, I'm Holly Lotus, and I am a life and intimacy coach. I love working with single moms and their daughters, and like the single moms who are addicted to the toxic relationships, but actually really want to have something lasting. So, in the midst of all of that, I've met many feminine gurus. So I want to say right off the bat that this is really fun, David. So because what we're doing is fun. Like, I don't know what we're going to talk about before we hop on. So it's just fun to hop on, chat about the things, and see what shows up.
Yep, today we're going to be deep diving into the world of feminine mysticism and feminine coaching and everything feminine today. I am going to most likely be giving Holly resistance today, and we're going to get into it for sure. But before we start anything, I'm going to actually start with a video to start this conversation. This video was done by a man. Trigger warning. He's talking about embodiment. So, for those of you who are particularly sensitive, you might want to get yourself a cup of tea or whatever the case may be and circle back to us. I'm just going to share my screen right now.
So what is embodiment? This strange word. Well, it just means how we are. It just means the way we are, our manner of being. You can think it's our bodily context. I often say the body's like an operating system. It's the context through which we feel, through which we think, through which we perceive the world, through which we relate and we take action. So in this sense, I'm talking about the body as awareness, the subjective felt sense of the body inside out for awareness, rather than, say, medical science, which studies the body outside in. It's not about learning some body language gestures. It's more about, as I said, awareness, attention, intention, posture, movement, breathing. These are the basic tools of embodiment. So the reason this matters is we're using this embodied sense of ourselves to do everything. This is how our cells are constructed in a way. Our history is in our bodies, and what we're capable of in the future is in our bodies. And it's the only way we can feel right now. So embodiment is about body awareness, but not just about being aware of the body as an object, as a thing, as a lump, but about being aware as a body. So the first person experience of the body. So what this awareness brings is choice. So rather than being victims of our sort of habitual modes that we've picked up from the past, the situation we happen to be in, we can then choose options that are more appropriate for the situation. In a world that's volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, a VUCA as they call it, then that's incredibly important. We have that flexibility and adaptability. So you can think of embodiment as working in layers. So there's a certain layer which is just the context, like I'm being filmed right now, you're sitting at home in your armchair, whatever it is. It's also the relationship. So, my embodiment is slightly different with my partner than with my mom, my friend, or, my colleague, whoever it is. There's a relational element to it. That's really important. There's also the longer term dispositional element. So this is what we call our personality. We have a set of habitual patterns. Our embodiment leads us to be a particular kind of person, to do certain things, to have certain relationships. This is a sort of longer term level of embodiment, and embodiment more fully. We also have a cultural embodiment. There's a part of me which is, English, and part of me which is Irish from my heritage. And, I really notice that when I go abroad. And there's the universal level of embodiment. We're all human. So embodiment is how we feel, how we relate, how we do things in the world, the I, the we, and the it. Very simply, it's the way we are.
Okay, so that was from the Body of Leadership, which is an online learning resource. You can find them at integrationtraining.co. or www.thebodyofleadership.com. And Holly, back to you. That was not the definition that was given to me by a lot of women groups which I have come across. Okay. We are so going to get into this today because the felt sense of subjectivity, which is what he referred to, is seeing things from the perspective of how they impact you internally, the body, etc. All right. So does this broadcast right now feel good in your body? Okay.
Okay.
Right. And so there are a number of things which I'm going to get into here. Some of them are going to be annoying. I'm never going to be saying the word triggering. I'm not even going to get used to it. Okay. So I'm going to let you chime in here.
Okay. So what I like about this video is that when he speaks about embodiment, he is talking about all of the bodies, not just our physical body. He's talking about all of our different bodies in the realm. And when we like women, if you want to bring up the feminine gurus, most of the time we talk about embodiment, we are mentioning like it's our body, our physical body, and there's so much more to it. And we talk about the physical body because that's what people can relate to. I would have said a very much more simple definition of embodiment, and it's basically like it's being present with your body, being present with yourself and in your body so you can feel and walk through the world in total consciousness and awareness, as much as you want to be conscious and aware of your surroundings. So I would have said it in a much more simple way and talked about it in a way that people can relate to.
Understood. And so for those of you who don't know, Holly is quite an adept metaphysician, and she has a spiritual practice of her own. And part of the reason why we clicked is specifically that thing. One thing I realized about Holly, she has a zero bullshit meter. She always has a very zero bullshit meter. So when she's speaking, which is why I wanted to speak to her specifically about this topic. Holly, my experience of people who say that they're embodied, it's usually the subjective always comes first. A lot of people walk up to me and say, well, I'm embodied. I practice embodiment techniques, but the common denominator is they seem a little less happy. Why is that? Oh, you didn't think I would go there? Yes, I'm going there. Go ahead, tell me.
David, nothing that you go to, it surprises me. So it's just, I'm never surprised by it. So subjective, you're meaning that they're doing embodiment practices where what are they referring to when they speak of this?
So as an example, if you and I are having this conversation and there's a bunch of triggered people at home, as an example, they're triggered because David just went there and they feel it badly in their bodies. But here's the problem that I have with that from a philosophical perspective. The mind lies to you, but the body also lies to you. You've had to go through some severe training in your life, have you not?
Yes.
So have I. And one thing that we know is that the body lies to you, usually to keep itself comfortable. Is that not true?
Yes. And if you understand the signals, then the body is telling you how to stay safe, and it's actually telling you the truth that you're not ready to hear, which feels like a lie.
Understood. And so now, how do you discern the signals? Because what it looks like is a lot of people say, well, I'm embodied and this doesn't feel good to me, and they go running in the opposite direction whenever there is a truth that they don't want to hear. A lot of people use esoteric principles such as embodiment as a sort of weapon, but as a sort of blinder to prevent themselves from coming against hard truths. And this has been my experience. So in the last, 10 years or so, this word has come to prominence, but it hasn't made anybody a lot happier. And this is what I'm noticing. that it may have made people happier. If you're an embodiment practitioner and it's made you happier, more power to you. But what I have found is a lot of the stuff that happens when people say that I'm embodied is that they're usually hiding. But the body is no place to hide, and you shouldn't necessarily use it as such. So I am torn, but I'm going to deep dive into it with an open mind and an open heart. What are embodiment practices?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. There's so many. There is the embodiment movement. So when a lot of female practitioners of embodiment will teach you to different ways of movement, dance, sensuality. There's the S factor. They teach you get embodied, and really what they're doing is
what is the S factor?
S factor is Sheila Kelly's body of work, and it's based on like primal movement of the female body. And you relate to different songs and different music. Each one of us relates differently, and there's movement that we have stifled because of societal pressures and norms. Like it's wrong, and judgment and shame. And so what the S factor practices do is teach you how to become in tune with your body, let the music move your body, and allow that movement to flow through in a way that brings up the heart emotions and has them come out in shows of movement. And then in the middle of the movement, sometimes there is like deep emotional release. There can be. So that's one form of embodiment.
So it's a kind of hatha yoga where the individual gets into the body through movement, postures, etc., in order to release emotions. This has happened a lot there's actually a basis for this in yoga. People have come to tears in yoga. So it's kind of like that. It's a flow, basically.
It's a flow, and it's based on like get out of your head and just really let your body do what movement it needs to do to release that point of your emotion, body, like energy, whatever is stuck in there that you've been holding so still. Because a lot of times women, we hold still, we don't move, we don't let it all jiggle and hang out. But when we bottle up, it's just like our emotions. We'll stuff this emotion really deep, and then we get rigid because the walls are so thick. And that movement allows the emotions to flow. And I think that that's where this embodiment practices, they all have something to do with that. Be present with your body. Allow the movement in whatever way, hatha yoga, dancing. It can be sex. Tantric practices, sexual practices can bring these things up. And it's always, all of these things I'm mentioning are ways to bring your body into your awareness and consciousness into these other levels of being.
Now, I find that very interesting because young ladies, when they're growing up, are deconditioned to move in certain ways. So you'll find parents telling you, sit with your legs crossed, or if your boobs are too big, they find a bra, they put it on you to de-accentuate your sexuality and so on. And so
you shouldn't walk like that.
Yeah, you shouldn't walk like that. Oh,
I got in trouble in the military because naturally, I had no idea I did it until I had these water jugs on my hips in basic training, and I'm walking and they're bouncing all over the place. I didn't know my ass did that so much, but my drill sergeant was pissed. Don't walk like that. What are you trying to turn on all these soldiers for, right? And I'm like, I'm fucking walking. What? So I learned to walk like
bad Holly. Right? So you had this water jugs and they're moving all over the place, and he's trying to constrict your movement. But that happens to a lot of young ladies and so on. And so these embodiment practices try to bring back that natural flow. That was hilarious, by the way. Lots of images in my head right now. And so as I was saying, so that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing that I want to say, these are embodiment practices, and they hope to relocate women within the natural state of flow and so on. What is the end goal of embodiment practices? Is it awareness?
It depends. So the end goal may be I want to be able to move in a sexy way to turn on my husband. The end goal may be I'm so stiff, I don't know how to work this pain out of my body, but I have no connection to my body, so I don't even know what to do with it. It's just there. And so you get connected to your body, mind, energy, all of it in the connection, which is something that I love to specialize in. I'm not very good about sharing the credentials, but I'm a massage therapist and energy worker as part of the things that I've studied throughout to become this coach. And I would call myself an embodiment coach if someone wanted to focus on something like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
So connecting all of these things and letting somebody really feel this part of their body. Maybe it doesn't move and maybe you're completely numb to it. And when it starts to awaken, you feel the pain, or the pain makes you connect to this numb place. I know that I've had this kind of experience also in my body recently. And so that the end goal may be like, I need to heal this pain in my body. The end goal is feeling better and being able to move, period. Last year, my embodiment goal was get out of the wheelchair.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I chose, absolutely, there was, when I thought about embodiment, you're the first person who came to mind, because you've literally had to take your body out of some dark places. And I wanted to tell the audience about that.
So I'll say the first one that comes to mind, well, I just shared one. Last year, I was in a wheelchair. I had a hip injury, and I started last year, the beginning of it, I was in a wheelchair, and then I had a spine surgery, and I had to heal from that. And now I'm walking. I still go to physical therapy. It's taken me through this healing journey, but I can do the things that I used to. I'm on my way to being able to do the things I used to do. What I really love to do is play in the circus arts still, and and dance and hike and do all the things that are just fun because I love to move my body. And I'm going. I'll get there if my body wants to. I'll listen. But another thing that came up when you asked about that is my body has a history of trauma. So I don't know if we need to warn, but some of the things that I'm going to say may be hard for people to hear if you had childhood trauma or a history of female sexual trauma. Shut me off. Don't listen. But when I was a kid, I had a lot of trauma in my family. There was drug abuse. There was physical and emotional abuse. And our body holds, even if there wasn't physical abuse, our body holds the emotional abuse. And so when we're going through and awakening and these things come up, we have to address the body in a way for our healings because our body holds it. So we have to release it. And I think that that's the basis of where the basic definition of embodiment comes from, is moving it through the body.
And let's not forget that accident that you had many years ago.
Yes. So when I was in the military, I was in a motorcycle accident, injured my spine, which is 10 years later why I had the surgery. It got worse. It hurt more things. Yeah, so there's so much in my history that I've had to work through. Military experience. I was deployed and put in a tent with 40 men, and it was just me. And you think I'm cute now? I was 40 pounds less then. I mean, it was a whole different body, and 21 or 22 years old, in a tent with 40 men, raging testosterone because we're at war. And this is a situation where my body was really unsafe. I had to get myself through that. I shut down. At a certain point, I had to move through that to get to the point where I am now. And so all of these things I'm saying is how I've come along in this journey of like learning ways to heal the body. It started with like food and things, get off the medications from the motorcycle accident. How do I do that? And then I started following feminine gurus. I want to be more feminine. I realized like, wow, I'm totally masculine in the way I do everything. And then I started following the feminine gurus.
Even with the water jugs?
What's that?
Even with the water jugs on the hips. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Okay, so that was one of the things that had me like, I had to learn to fit into the masculine world. I had to stop the water jugs from moving. You know?
Go ahead. All right. All right. So my question is, all right, that explains a whole lot, really, when it comes to the embodiment practices and so on. Would you say that that word is being misused a lot or misappropriated a lot in our modern culture?
I would say the word, yes, because now it's a way to market to people. So this is how we got to use these words to get what people will understand as a way for them to do a healing journey, to come to us so that they understand. Like, we know what you're looking for.
Understood.
You're disconnected, so let's get you connected. And embodiment, what does that mean? I don't even know my body. We have to speak it in this way. The definition of it, I think some practitioners they're not embodied themselves, and that's when it becomes perverted, to use the word embodiment, because you don't feel the person that's in front of you saying like, I'm going to help you be embodied, and you don't feel them in their body.
Understood. And it doesn't matter necessarily the physical practice. Okay. So as an example, I taught yoga for many, many years, did martial arts since I was 7. Theoretically, that should make you more embodied, but the digital aspects of my mind made me a little bit less embodied, because there's a tendency of the mind to want to control the body in such a way that things become more, inverted commas, efficient. And this is one of the dangers of practicing physical stuff without the other aspect, the philosophy aspect. Because what happens is that your mind starts taking control over your body through the function of your nervous system. And as a result of that, things become more efficient, but less embodied. Do you understand what I just said? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You went through it. So what I'm gonna move on to is the cleansing rituals. Okay, so I've heard a lot of weird cleansing rituals. So I'm going to start with the most common, the jade egg practice. I'm going to have you explain that. And I don't want you to explain that to a woman. I want you to explain that to a man. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Please, let's hear it.
Okay, so the jade egg practice, and it's lucky because I have like firsthand experience working with this. One of my gurus, one of my leaders was Saida Desales. And she is the jade egg goddess, and she teaches this practice. And basically, she teaches it from. I think the practice she uses is Tai Chi and movement. So she teaches like to get the body moving first, and then teach it how to accept the egg. And the jade egg is an egg-shaped object made out of jade, literally a jade egg. And it goes into your vagina. And it's not supposed to be pushed in, it's supposed to be welcomed in. So the practices she teaches is how to bring that into your body. And what that does is, well, first, if you have pelvic floor issues, if you are incontinent, you sneeze and pee, then this can help strengthen, because you're teaching your muscles to be able to hold this object in your vagina as you go through different daily activities.
How is this different from Kegels?
Kegels is just on purpose. Kegels can be like really focused in one area, and it's not really activating the entire vaginal canal. It's like at the bottom. So if you put the egg in, you're not just holding with the bottom to keep it in. Once your vagina is able to hold it and activate, then it will actually hold it in from here in all the different places, and then it will start to play with it and massage. And then the possibility is pleasure. So we have this jade, which the jade is an energetic stone. It's a natural stone, and so it comes with energetic properties. So that can help with cleansing. People, they use different kinds of eggs and different natural stones, different gemstones, to clear different things. So you can ask the stone to be your healer. Is another aspect of the jade egg. But once that egg is in there and you're able to hold it, then as the day goes and your pussy's playing with it, then the pleasure can come out. You just walking or taking the subway and this egg is rattling around in there. Orgasm on the way to work, you know?
Okay. So the things that come to mind is danger. So
why danger?
This is coming once again from a male body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep thinking, this is inside the canal. I could be speaking to somebody who has a jade egg inserted, and so not that I'm asking any questions. You don't need to answer that question, right? I could be talking to somebody on the subway or who may have a jade egg inserted. Are there any negative effects of practicing jade egg, the jade egg practices?
It could be. If you don't clean it well, you can get an infection. So here's something from my own experience. After having my daughter, my pelvic floor wasn't strong enough, so it can fall out at any point. So like
during dinner at a restaurant.
So I'm just walking down the hall and I might have an egg fall out if I'm not wearing underwear or pants to keep it on, you know. So it can come out. It can cause that orgasm at a weird time. If you're a squirter, make it rain in the subway, you know. I mean, if these are negative things,
they might be. They might be to some people. To some people, probably not.
And there may be an aspect of like you're not strong enough. You don't know, like. Some of the eggs, like one of the dangers of the different types of gemstones used is some of them have shards that can come off. So you do have to make sure that when you're getting an egg to do the internal practices, you have to get a gemstone that's not going to leave any pieces of itself inside of you, because that is a danger. So that's why Saida uses the jade, because it doesn't do that.
Yes, because the structure of the jade egg. The density doesn't allow.
Quartz is another one, I think, and I don't know if that's safe. So I've always just
used jade.
The jade egg.
All right. What are the other cleansing rituals that women go through?
So it depends.
What about yoni steams?
Yeah, that was the next one. Is we do yoni steams. Another thing I've been introduced to and practiced, and some.
What is the yoni for our audience?
Yoni is your female reproductive system. The whole system, and pussy, everything is. I call it my yoni-verse sometimes, depending who I'm speaking to about it. That's a very energetic word to use. Yoni-verse, like that's your whole reproductive system of the woman. I believe it may just be the pussy. But I've heard it referred to as the entire system. And basically, yoni steam is like you make tea basically out of different types of herbs meant for drawing toxins and energy and like negative energy and whatever your body is ready to release through the yoni. So you put it in a bucket, sit on it, or in the toilet even, and sit on the toilet and wrap yourself in a blanket and let the steam come and release all those toxins. It's basically like a...
So you're literally steaming the yoni.
Yep. And in that space, meditate, seeing, women do these things to release the emotions. It's basically like a sweat lodge for your pussy.
Mm-hmm. Understood. And so during this process, we used to do something like that when you covered the head and you had mucus and you had a cold and you boiled the water and you use menthol and eucalyptus. So
draw it up.
it's that practice for your reproductive system?
Yes. And so women do it for different purposes, for like health purposes, or I want to have a baby, something's in the way, or I just broke up and I want to release all that energy and let it go and like cut the cords. It's one of those ways to cleanse that. And yeah, so there's different purposes it's used for. And it's just about kind of like, honestly, any of these practices that you choose to do and put the attention into, you can get a benefit from, because you're putting that attention and intention into letting that thing go. And rituals are just for our mind and body to understand, like, this is something I'm doing to move forward into something else. And I'll tell you honestly, it doesn't matter which one you choose. If this is your intention and you put some attention there, you're going to let it go because you're choosing to let it go.
Understood. How come men don't have any cool practices like that? Like,
they do. They have the sweat lodge.
Yeah, but you have your own little personal sweat lodge, right? we don't have any personal sweat lodge. I don't even know what that would look like. All right, would that be like a hose that you like? Never mind. So I don't know what that would look like. Men generally don't do those kinds of practices. However, there are practices in Hatha Yoga for the man to cleanse your reproductive system, your prostate, and so on through prostate stimulation. But this is a show about the women, so we're going to stick to that topic, and that's for another show. The final thing that I want to talk to you about is the concept of feminine gurus. Now, this is going to be a touchy subject. Annoyance warning. I was about to say trigger warning, but annoyance warning. I'm going to be pushing back here a lot of the times. There are a lot of female gurus out there who are not embodied. You've pointed that out. But there's a lot of female gurus out there that teach toxicity as part of their teaching because they approach with a sort of pseudo spiritual outlook, but it's based on exclusion and division. There are a lot of feminine gurus out there that exploit women. So as an example, they want you to join their organization, but it's a monetary thing, right? And I've always said, why would you pay to have friends? There is a lady online right now. She came on the show some time ago. Her name is Shelley Palmer, and she runs a group called Haven, which is completely free for women to join. And then I see other people who have programs and communities online, which are like upwards of basically from $3,000 to $10,000. So what is being given in these groups that justifies the price?
I guess it depends on the group. So the price difference, so it can be described in many ways. It can be the ones who are charging a lot will say, well, like, this one doesn't know her worth, or maybe she's working pro bono.
Ooh.
Because right. So that's kind of harsh to be the one. And I'll tell you, I've charged $6,000 to $10,000 for coaching, and I've done it for free. So I've been on all the ends. And if I say to somebody like, I charge for free, there's like, well, we should have a session about how much worth you, like, what your own, how you view your worth, because I should be charging more, right? In their point of view. And then the ones who are doing it for free, maybe it's just like, wow, I learned this thing and I just want to share it with whoever wants to learn it. And it's fun for me to just do it. And it may have nothing to do with their worth. It's just like, wow, this is so much fun.
So what is the scale? What is the scale that you're using? So as an example, if someone wants to do predominantly feminine coaching, Is it based on the number of hours that you spend with the individual? Because charging $6,000 to $10,000 is not a problem, but what is going into that is an issue. So what I found a lot with a lot of these programs is that there's a video component which is pre-recorded, so it's an evergreen product. And then there are the coaches that spend the time to be with their clients or give them one-on-one direct counseling. So what really goes into that? Because I want women who are watching this broadcast right now to at least be aware before they choose a coach or whatever else. Holly, I've known you for years, and what's interesting to me is that you always put your heart and soul into things. So what is going into that increases the value for women, that allows them to be able to pay prices from $6,000 to $10,000?
So what goes into it is, and the allowance or agreement for somebody to pay a large price is how much they relate and can trust the person, feel that they can trust the person in front of them to hold them in their problem. Or somebody like, wow, you really see me and I need to work with you because I know you've been through it, or I know you can see and have the solution. So if somebody's really dealing with something that's holding them back from what they want in their life, and then a coach comes along and puts a solution right in front of them where they can just see it and feel it, that person will pay any price the coach asks for because they want the solution, and they just know that they can find it here. So, and I've done that. I'm like, the first one I signed up for was a $10,000 group program. We had 2 retreats out of the country. Well, supposed to be out of the country. Then, weather happened, and we ended up one in the country and one out. And then group calls for 6 months, and a little bit of one-on-one time with different practitioners. And this was a life-changing process for me. I didn't have $10,000, but I needed what these women who were showing and like saying what's available had, because I could feel something different in them. I wanted to heal, and I wanted to be in this different place. And I wanted to learn these things and have a different life available to me. And so I figured out how to make that money available to me so I could have it. So I would say, like, it's really based on like this sensation in our body and how badly we want an outcome. And then then the person shows up. I am not saying you have to spend those large amounts to have that. So there are programs available for a lot less money, and you can have the same thing. But sometimes it's like that value. If you don't charge this much, then people don't think that you have that value.
I see.
So, and we're taught, as a coach, we're taught, like, charge a value that makes it worth somebody. I paid this much, so I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my work, because the work is hard. The work is hard work, and you have to be dedicated. So sometimes that money piece is what gets you dedicated to show up to the next call. Fuck, I paid $10,000 for this. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to be there.
Understood. Now I understand that. I absolutely do. Because it's a commitment of financial resources, which the mind follows, and so on. In your experience, does feminine coaching work for the majority of your clients? And that's a completely quantitative question, but I just wanted to find out, does it work for the majority of your clients? Does it enrich their relationships with their significant others, be it men or women or anything in between? So tell me.
I say, if the client who shows up for that feminine leadership does the work that they're invited to do, really is in the program and dedicated to it, no matter what it is, whether it's feminine leadership, feminine guru that you're following to learn these feminine practices, or it's your personal trainer. If you're not really committed and don't show up, you're not going to get the results.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm actually so happy to hear that. So Are there any tips you want to give people who are looking for specifically feminine coaching?
Yes, I would say follow your intuition. And if you want, so where I started in this was just by, if you want to start off and you want to explore this and you don't have the high dollar desire to pay that, or the desire to choose to go in deep in the beginning, you can explore with books. My Audible library is extensive. And this is where I started. So you can start. And then in those, there will be little tendrils and little snippets of follow this. And then you'll discover. People will show up in your path that show you the way where you're headed and that they can support you. So like if you're watching this and it feels as though I can support you or David can support you, then listen to that and start to see like what programs are available. What is she talking about? Was it the yoni steam or the jade egg? And who is the leader of this? Or what can this person teach me about this? And just follow those tendrils, and that's following your awareness.
Okay. Are there any tips you want to give people? Because not all feminine coaching, I've been looking on the net and I've actually done a deep dive into the subject. There are some people on the net that are preaching to people that they don't need men, and it's coming under the heading of feminine coaching. And there's some people on the net that actually would increase the inadequacy in women, because there are some feminine gurus on the net that go by the prettiness. So they come off as this sexy, alluring creature, and women want to be like that, but their body structure, their personalities may not be able to reach that. But some of these coaches, and I've actually done the research on this, say join our feminine coaching and become the sexiest thing ever. And let's face it, some of these women are going to keep falling short, because the dynamics of sexiness in the container of a marriage or relationship is relational to the time spent with that individual. So people are generally lazy in their sexual relationships. They're generally lazy in their marriage. And I say lazy in the sense of they're in a sexual relationship with someone who they're married to. They don't experiment, they don't update their sexual practices and so on. So after 7 years of doing, let's say, the missionary position, things get kind of tired. Agreed? And
Agreed.
so
7 years.
Right, it would take 7 years, correct? Right?
After 7 months.
Right. Things get kind of tired and they don't update their sexual practices. So after a while, there will be a point where the man doesn't find the woman as attractive as he did before. And it might be that she may have had a child. She may have gained weight. Any number of things could have gone into that. They may be fighting. People don't realize that when you have arguments and resentment, attraction evaporates like nothing. And so a lot of these people go to people who profess to give them back the sexiness that they once had. And something tells me that this is something that should really come from within. So do you have any tips for these women?
Yeah, I would say that we as women, we look at other women. Are you sexy? Do I find you sexy? And we tend to judge each other immediately based on the physical aspect, when sexiness does come from within, and it could be like a lack of confidence. And so when you're finding a guru, it may not be the way a person looks, but it's the way that they feel and relate to you. So some of the ones who are like very beautiful, very physically attractive, and what sexy is relative to. So it's what I see as sexy. I may choose them based on their looks, but I would say in anything, it's choosing based on looks and physicality may not be, unless you're looking for your personal trainer, that would be the place to put the physical. Does this person understand physical? So it's deeper than the physical aspect, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Does this coach put out the sense of being sexy and not just the physical look of being sexy?
And from my perspective, and we spoke about the blueprints in our last broadcast, from my perspective, I can pretty much talk from the male perspective. So from the male perspective, generally, what counts as sexy to men, women sometimes absolutely miss.
Tell us, Davis, what's sexy to men?
It depends on the man, but I'm going to do common denominators here. Common denominators. A woman who is not confident is not going to come across as very sexy. A woman who is too confident, the middle path is usually, and when I say too confident, I don't mean too confident in the terms of knowing herself. I mean too confident as in you're in the power suit, you've just met the man, take off your clothes now and bend over, as an example, right? That wouldn't necessarily come across. It would feel like push energy to the man. If you're a woman and you're drinking beer, you got the bear belly and you're burping and stuff like that, that might not be sexy. I'm just going to say. If you're a woman and you have like curls in the hair and the little bunny slippers, I hate those bunny slippers. Like I do. I know a lot of people like them. I don't. Certain things do not come across as sexy. Energetically speaking, if there is a lot of push energy, and I say push energy from the woman, not push energy in a sexual sense, but just generally push energy or cantankerous energy or quarreling or that kind of thing, instead of trying to come to some sort of middle ground, then that comes across as not sexy. I have met people, women and so on. We've been to places in common, Holly, and we have met women that have a million triggers walking around. And I hate that word. I hate that word. They have a million little issues inside themselves that they refer to as triggers, but which are actually guns that they own, that they think that other people are pulling their triggers. Navigating the various issues or triggers of anyone is a task in itself. The last thing on your mind is, oh, this person is attractive. That is the last thing on your mind. Now, an argument could be made for a lot of these triggers were made by men, but they weren't made by the man that finds you unattractive. At that point in time, they weren't made by the man that found you unattractive. So a lot of women carry stuff from past relationships, and men too. This is not a woman phenomenon, but men do it as well, from past relationships into their present relationships, from past experiences into their present experiences. And one of the things that makes it difficult for the whole attraction process to happen is that they're not very open when you meet them, men and women. And so that affects the attraction or how you're attracted to somebody, because navigating triggers is never a good thing. It's actually like, why are you so messed up? That's exactly what happens in the mind of men. So if you are a woman who you know you have a million triggers going on, and you don't add to the triggers by saying, no man finds me attractive, as an example, because they can't handle me. That's the excuse. Because the truth of the matter is that there's adaptability in the process of human relationships. As an example, you're looking at Holly there. She looks like a woman, but in an instant, I'm quite sure Holly can become absolutely more masculine in 0 seconds flat.
Yeah.
Okay? She can become more masculine in 0 seconds flat. And that's the adaptability that you find when you speak to people. Given the situation, they're adaptable to a situation. But there are some people that are stuck in certain aspects. And that's why they need feminine coaching, to teach them how to become more adaptable, whether it be more masculine, more feminine, on that spectrum. So this is why I actually initially had a little bit of a reaction when I say feminine coaching. You mean coaching? Is that what you mean?
Well, no, there's so much more. I can absolutely take on a client and teach nothing about femininity. It can be goals oriented. It can be like financial oriented. And there's no feminine practices at all, because that's not what the client's looking for or ready for. So it's not just coaching. So when you said something when you were describing like what's attractive or what a trigger, like these triggers are actually guns, and you pointed to your body like, yeah, we've put these guns in our body, we've built the walls and they're in our body, like you put it here. So I just wanted to mention that as like, this is how the embodiment, like we want to get present with those parts in the body that are holding those triggers that are causing the disconnect between the people around you or the goal that you have with the target. And so that is the part where we speak about embodiment. Like there's something going on in the body that we want to unwind, so that when someone approaches you, you don't bring those past guns up. I don't bring my deployment up to the front like you're an unsafe, because you're a man, because you're a soldier. Even I can be more specific, because I still live near a base here. I could carry it with me and be like, oh my gosh, a soldier, and put that same fear in my body. But because I've moved past it, now I can see the soldier and see him as a person that has nothing to do with my past experience and past story.
And there are energetics that go into that. For example, I'm a big dude. You get into an elevator with a woman and you feel those little walls go up, and you're like, sweetheart, no one cares. No one cares. This is what happens inside the man, because I'm like, I'm clearly not the kind of person who's going to like harass a woman in an elevator, right? But there are lots of men that do that. And so when women see big guys walk into an elevator and you're the only one in the elevator, this protection stuff comes up. And after a while, I have to be honest with you, it gets tiring on the male side, because there are preconceptions and they're doing it because of safety issues.
Yeah,
right?
Or maybe, probably, most likely, because of an experience that they had in their past, or witnessed, or heard about.
Which is kind of ironic, because I seem to remember a little 5 foot, how tall am I looking? 5'1".
Nothing.
I seem to remember a little 5 foot person walking up to me at a retreat and saying, hello. I'm like, do you not see there's a big man here? Yeah. Do you remember that experience? I was actually a little bit shocked. I'm like, this chick has nothing on board, just emptiness. And I'm like, I was actually impressed by that. Actually, I actually have you entered into my phone as Holly, no fucks given.
I love that.
Right? Right? Because you didn't care at all. You just walked straight up to me.
You met me at a place after I'd worked through plenty of things. There was a time in my life where my daughter and I lived really sheltered in the beginning. Before I started doing this work and healing my traumas from the past, I didn't leave the house past dark, and I didn't put us in any situation that would create something where I felt uncomfortable. So it was me and her, and
Holly,
we did our life.
To be quite honest with you, I think
living in fear. What's that?
I can't even imagine that. I think people have more to be frightened of you than you have to be frightened of them. Right? I can't even imagine that. I need proof. I need to have seen you then. Okay.
But I had the stories running where I was not safe. But then people, because I had the stories in my mind, it caused me to act in a certain way. But people would not ever do anything, because energetically and physically, I put on a show of complete confidence in those times, unless I was hiding in my house, not leaving past dark. So we didn't leave the house after 6 o'clock for, I think, 40 years. Just because I was in this fear state with my past stories running from my childhood, from the military, from different experiences. You met me in a place where I had worked through all of it, and I was partnered with you. Okay, let's do this. I was like, let's just do this thing that we're doing. And there was no, wow, this is a very big man. Like, David, you're a big man. if you put in comparison to me, in comparison to anything, you're a big man. Like there's this big man and there was no fear. We're going to go out in the field and do this thing. Let's do the thing. I didn't have the walls. I didn't have the armoring. I didn't have the fear. I just had the openness. I don't know what you said, empty. I like that.
Yeah, it's an emptiness. It's a cup that has nothing in it. And this is what I felt coming from you. But you're not going to get that from the average woman walking around out there. You're going to get that cup is partially filled. And it's usually filled with stuff that is not necessarily too good for you. And depending on how filled that cup is, the energetics of that turn men off. So you get the statement, this chick has issues. And a lot of men...
Unless it's the fixer man, the knight in shining armor.
Who tries to fix the issues. But most men would be like, this chick has issues, leave that shit alone. And so that creates a sort of cyclical problem for the woman, because she now wonders why she is not attracting anybody. It might be that your cup is filled and you might want to get some coaching to try to empty some of that stuff out, or at least regulate it in such a way that you don't affect and shoot yourself in the foot and miss out on positive experiences, whether it be between the men or women or anything in between, as the case may be. What I am going to round off by saying on this topic is that there is absolutely a need for feminine coaches. Holly has given you some tips to find the ones that are genuine and the ones that are in it for life. I'm going to give you my tips right now. If you're going to choose a feminine coach, please look at the feminine coach and research them before you enter into coaching with them or enter into any groups. And when I say research them, is this going to make you feel happier? Is the person stable, or is the person going to make you into a more better person? Read what the copy on their website says and see what it is that they're coming across to you with. But please do your research first, because you don't want to actually find yourself in a worsening your situation. Holly, I'm going to let you have the last word here.
So I want to share one. If you feel judged in any way, if you feel like, wow, this person, even if it's you putting the judgment on yourself, if you feel judgment from the person who's going to coach you, then that may be a red flag when looking for a coach. When you feel that this person is greater than me and I don't know, like they're going to shame me into what I need to, where I'm trying to go, then that never feels good, and it will never go to a place of the goals that you're wanting. Unless you really function from being judged and shamed and you want to be put down the whole time you're trying to get to your goal, then it's not going to create like a positive effect in your world.
Excellent. Holly, once again, wonderful experience to have you here. And at some point in time, we will be doing this again on another touchy subject.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me on, David. Go ahead.
No, I was actually going to give these people a way to contact you, actually, which is what I suspect you're about to do. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you would have any questions from this
broadcast,
what are we calling it? Then please email me at shamelessexplorations@gmail.com. And if you're interested in working with me, please request a relationship breakthrough session.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, guys. I will see you guys later.